Beautiful. But let's go ahead and dive into this. So I really want to dive into hypertrophy, what it is, what's actually going on, so you guys understand a little bit more of like why programming is done the way it's done, and just to truly understand what actually matters versus what doesn't matter, because there's so many things out there saying that, they're the best for hypertrophy, or you need to do this, you need to do that. And at the end of the day, it gets confusing. So let's go ahead and go into it. So the first thing that we're going to do is dive into strength and muscle hypertrophy. Number two, we are going to dive into the two most important factors for muscle growth. We'll dive into rep ranges. Do they matter? How do we set them up? What's going on there? And then should we include partial reps at the end of our set? So this is a big topic right now in the fitness industry. Fifth, we'll go into best training splits for growth. And then lastly, we're going to dive into rest periods because they do matter. And that was the question that Danny brought up that kind of like piqued this whole thing, right? But when we're looking at, strength and muscle hypertrophy, a lot of times people think they're kind of the same thing, but they are very different. So in the beginning, they're both going to grow really fast. So you're going to be able to gain a lot of strength and a lot of muscle as your body is just, very adaptive, right? It's a new stimulus. After a while, once you get into the more intermediate, advanced kind of bracket, you definitely have to start training differently in order to maximize what you want out of both of them, right? When we're looking at strength, we're just trying to produce as much power as possible. And with that, we can definitely set up rep ranges or set up different, programs to kind of help with that goal. As far as hypertrophy, if you want to maximize that, you can definitely set it up in that manner as well, right? When we look at strength and muscle hypertrophy, as you build more muscle, you will build more strength, and a lot of it will come from the leverages that you're actually getting from that muscle. If you think about it, you look at power lifters, they're pretty heavy and they can move a lot of weight. Weight moves weight, and they have leverages because they have more body fat on their frame, right? Muscle's going to do the same thing for you, right? When we talk about strength, we're talking about pretty much two components, right? The physiology, what is the ability of the neuromuscular system, and what is the ability of the muscle fibers to contract and produce force. So as you train, like these can become better, right? Mechanics, this is going to come down a lot to structure and technique. So, obviously some people are built to deadlift. Some people are built to, do bench a lot better. And that really comes down to pretty much, kind of their limbs, right? If somebody has, long legs, they're probably not going to be the best at squatting, right? They have to go a long way down and a long way up. So that is going to play a big thing when it comes down to strength. And then technique is also the most important. And this is why we're always practicing proper technique. When you're able to execute that movement to the best of its ability and really maximize, the amount of recruitment of the muscle you're getting while doing that movement, that is going to help you push more weight. And that is why we are so adamant about having good form, right? You're going to get stronger. You're going to build more muscle just by having good form, right? Dude, I still have this lingering cough. It's a whole week and it's still here, dude. A really important thing to break down off the bat is, or actually, I dove into that already, actually. So now dive into hypertrophy and what's actually happening here, right? So when we think about the muscle, we have to remember that it's built off different layers. And throughout these layers, there's going to be muscle fibers. So what we're doing with training is we are going to create little micro tears, right? So the muscle has to go through what we call micro trauma, right? From there, hormones are going to signal to the body that the muscle's been damaged. If we're getting an adequate amount of protein, what ends up happening here is those amino acids can be converted into protein or muscle protein, which is going to help pretty much enlarge that muscle. There is cases where we could build more muscle fibers, but more often than not, we're just increasing the muscle size. So with that being said, this is why it's important to dial in our nutrition, because we could be training all we want, but if we're not recovering, we're not getting an adequate amount of protein, your body doesn't actually have the resources to build, that muscle fiber back up. And then the two most important factors for muscle growth. I've talked about this a lot recently. Do you guys know, or actually, let's go back to, do some of you guys know the answer to this one? I was asking, the answer was already there. I was like, hold up. And do you guys know the two most important factors for muscle hypertrophy? Anybody? Anybody want to take a shot? Okay, let's do it.
Is
So,
one training till failure? Is that one?
yes. Why do we
Oh,
want to train to failure?
I don't know. You got me there. I got a 50%.
You're good. I think I said this in the voice message yesterday, but the reason why we want to train to failure is because we want to maximize the amount of mechanical tension that we're getting from each set, right? You remembered, you're like, yep, that's it. So we want to maximize this. And how do we maximize it? So when we think about mechanical tension, think about a pulling force that the muscles are going to feel when they are shortening. And the muscles are shortening when we're doing the concentric, right? So bicep curls, we're curling, right? Squats, we're coming up, right? So as that velocity starts to slow down, that is when we start reoccurring the most mechanical tension. So think about it this way, right? At the beginning, you're fresh, you have a lot of strength, you have a lot of energy. You're going to be moving that weight relatively quickly. As you start progressing in that set, things are going to slow down, and then you're going to start grinding. And then those last final reps, you're going to be pushing with all you have, but they're going to be barely moving slowly. That right there is what we want. That is where you are getting the most mechanical tension. So when you think about it, that is what we're shooting for in every single set. Because if we're getting that, that means we're pushing the body to a place where it now needs to get stronger and adapt for it, right? The second one is going to be motor recruitment. And this is just coming down to how much of the muscle are we activating as we're doing each rep, right? So, an important thing to kind of take note here is when we're lifting lighter weight, we are going to be loading less of that muscle. As we start fatiguing, then we're going to start recruiting the rest of those muscle fibers. When we're lifting heavier, because it is heavy weight and we're going to have to pretty much use everything we have to move that, you're going to engage more motor recruitment. This is why we tend to have, lower reps and then just 1 to 2 sets. We want to maximize that without adding too much where we can't recover from it, right? And the reason why heavier loads, I personally feel work a little bit better for hypertrophy is if we're doing higher reps, we run the risk of now just accumulating too much fatigue and too much muscle damage, which then just takes away from that next set, right? So we want to make sure that each set we're maximizing the most that we possibly can. Rep ranges, you guys already know, rep ranges don't really matter as long as you're getting the most mechanical tension, as long as you are really pushing your body to that extent, you're good, right? If you are someone that, for example, is a runner and you want to actually increase how much your body can take, then you would want to go for, the higher reps. That will definitely help you out. Other than that, you can still get away with, 5, 6, 7, 8 reps if you are pushing your body to that place where those reps are slowing down, you're grinding, and you are achieving the most mechanical tension, right? And then should we include partials? So I'm pretty sure you guys have already seen a little bit of like partials, include them, start doing this because this is going to give you an extra stimulus, right? So if we're doing higher reps, we could definitely do it, right? Because again, with higher reps, we're already accumulating more stress and more muscle damage. Might as well push that set as much as we possibly can and get the most out of it. If we're doing lower reps, heavier weight, we probably don't want to do this. And the reason why is because you're already engaging more muscles from the get-go because you are lifting heavier. You're already going full range of motion. You're already pushing the body to where it needs to go. There's really no reason to actually do those partials because, again, now you're actually running the risk of, again, more muscle damage and then just taking away from that other set. What if they give you a gnarly pump and you love it? Beautiful. Do it. Who cares? Everybody loves a nasty pump. So That's the reason why I do partials. If I'm doing some biceps and I just want to get a nasty pump with it, I'm absolutely going to do them, right? Best training splits. So when it comes down to the training splits, this really comes down more to the client, their schedule, and what they enjoy versus thinking like, hey, this is the best for muscle hypertrophy. And the reason why we look at it this way is because we obviously want to make sure that the training program is something that you can adhere to, something that you enjoy, and something that you're going to be able to do for an extended period of time, because consistency is what's going to give us the results that we want. So when we're looking at it, it comes down to, okay, what's going to work best for you, right? As you continue evolving as an athlete, you are going to have to slowly bring that volume up. You might have to go to 4 days, you might have to go to 5 days, because now your body's very adapted to what you've been doing. So we need to add a little bit more volume to get that stimulus that we're looking for in order for us to grow again, right? And at the end of it, as long as volume is controlled, you aren't, overtraining to the point it's taken away from other training sessions, you're going to be okay. And most times you only need about like 6 to 8 sets per muscle group. Anything else really isn't going to do much for you.
Quick question on that, Jose.
Mhm.
So with the you said the amount of sets you need per week for each muscle group. So it's like, okay, let's say for chest you do 3 sets of bench press and then 3 sets of um like dumbbell press, right? That's 6 sets right there. Would that just count for the whole week? And then you have another chest day, and then you do another like three
Yeah.
sets. Okay, so like, yeah,
Yeah. That's more than enough. But if you're having 2 chest days, this is where you can take advantage and you can split that volume up equally, right? Now you get
yeah,
to push as much as you can on the first session as well as the second session.
got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was thinking then, okay, well, if you do 2 sets, you can go hard on those 2 sets and then split up those 2 chest days. You can go hard on that. Let's say Monday's chest day, have 2 sets where you go freaking hard on chest. And then I don't know, you do another exercise where you're going for, you're going for freaking mass. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, dude. I mean, if you have multiple days of that body part, just spread it out. That way you can just train harder and you're able to recover from it. You're taking that rest period in between, so you're able to come back and you're still able to train as hard as you want. Yeah. Beautiful, man. Good question. And then Danny brought up this question, right? Like rest periods. Where should they be within my workout? Should I be taking longer breaks? Should I be taking shorter breaks? So when it comes down to it, when we're doing compound movements, so say for example, barbell back squat, or we're doing a Romanian deadlift, for these movements, we definitely want to take a longer rest period. We could do 3 to 4 minutes, which has been actually proven to be better, right? Because these are movements that are just very physically demanding. You're not going to be able to do a max on squat and then rest for a minute and think you're going to go back in there and do an equal amount of reps. Like you're going to be exhausted from it. So we want to make sure our central nervous system and our breathing really starts to come down. We recover and then go back into that set so we can, again, maximize how much we're getting off of each set. For movements that are a little bit more machine work and stuff like that, like those 1 to 2 minutes is more than enough. Those aren't as physically demanding and you're going to be able to recover from them pretty fast. So 1 to 2 minutes is going to be more than enough for it. As far as what was I gonna say here, dude? I lost my train of thought completely. I hate when this happens because then it's just awkward.
respect, bro. Respect.
What? Cool. That's where I was going. So, am I lying? It's just like an awkward pause. Be like, "Fuck, where was I going with this?" I'm just gonna call myself out on it. But when it comes down to the rest periods, like one thing that we can do to make these a lot better is honestly just kind of work on nasal breathing. So if you're breathing in through your nose, exhaling through your mouth, what this is going to do is going to help bring your heart rate down quicker, meaning that you're going to be able to recover a little bit better from it. And there are some studies showing that it actually helps recovery happen a lot quicker, even for those next few days, right? So it's really important to pay attention to how we're recovering, right? We don't want to just be wheezing over our phone, hunched over the whole time. I've done it. I know you guys have done it. Just kind of keep yourself up a little bit, work on that nasal breathing, and you're going to be able to come into that set a lot better, right? So that pretty much wraps it up. I think the last thing that I can really add here is going into like RIR, RPE. So when we look at it, so RIR stands for reps in reserve. So for example, I'm saying, 3 reps in reserve. So you would do that set until you would feel like, okay, cool. Like this is 3 reps in reserve, right? If we have, 8 to 12, what you're shooting for here is go into the amount of reps until you feel that. If that's 9, beautiful. If that's 10, cool, right? It's kind of funky. I don't like RIR too much. Yeah, it's funky. I like RPE a lot better. So RPE, the way we look at RPE is rate of perceived exertion. So if I say RPE 9, you're going to push that set until you feel you only have 1 rep left in the tank. If it's RPE 8, you're going to go until you feel like you only have 2 reps left in the tank. So throughout this, you're picking out a weight where you're going to be within that rep range, but you're going to be able to end at RPE 8. All right. Does that RPE is better for sure. And especially if you're doing like strength training, RPE just works so much better because RIR, for a 3x3 makes no sense.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And I think this is more just like I don't know how everyone's program is, but for mine, so like on my sets, so my reps and sets, it'll say like 3 sets of an example would be like 8 to 12. Should I just like try to go for like max, like 12? Or should I shoot in between 10?
Yeah.
Or should I do like
So yeah, awesome question. So when you have sets like this, right? So you still want to be shooting for like RP 9 to 10. So like 1 rep left in the tank or pretty much failure for those easier movements. Once you get to 12, say if it's 3 sets and you get the first 2 sets to 12, move up in weight, right? So you move up in that weight, and then once you move up in that weight, you're probably going to be ending like maybe like 8 or 9 or 10, right? And then you just try and keep progressing that. You get the same weight up to 12, beautiful. Move up in weight. Yeah, cool. That right there is pretty much it. Do you guys have a pretty good understanding now of muscle hypertrophy? It's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, it's the reps. Like what always distinguished the difference was always like the reps for me. Like strength training was always lower in reps. Hypertrophy is just a little bit more. I've always felt like I feel like that's what's helped me is more like the
Yeah.
rep range, volume, intensity, all that stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, hypertrophy really just comes down to the mechanical tension.
Mhm.
How much are you getting within that set?
Mhm.
But it's hard to get that with like 2 or 3 reps.
And you had mentioned too, like the partial reps is more with those higher amounts of reps. So
Correct.
for you, I mean, I have a question on that.
Yeah.
What are like your best exercises that you're doing right now that you do the partial reps? So you mentioned biceps, but like what other ones have you been finding yourself doing partial reps with? Kind of curious.
Yeah, dude. So honestly, for me, it's just arm movements. So it's gonna be like the cable drag curls, hammer curls, tricep press.
Yeah.
Um, I'll do it a little bit with calves, but I'm just really trying to grow my calves. So I'm just
Mm.
like, it doesn't hurt.
and how would you like log those?
You wouldn't. That's the
Yeah.
thing with them, and
Okay.
that's why I don't
You
use them
wouldn't?
too much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's why I don't put them in there for people or like use them too much because they're hard to track.
Mhm.
Yeah. He's got some good questions. I like it.
Hmm.
Anybody else got some questions? Anything they need a little bit more clarity on or biggest takeaway?
Oh, this is I actually found this to be this was going on the other day. Hack squats or even barbell back squats, getting the breathing down. So like, well, let's hack squat specifically.
Yeah.
How many times are you breathing at the bottom? Like when you go to, because I always felt like you brace for impact and then you're holding it, but sometimes sometimes you're stuck there at the bottom, depending on what the tempo is going to be like.
Yeah.
So are you breathing like, are you exhaling at the bottom again and then breathing in, or what's your breathing pattern when you go for that lift?
Yeah. So with the hack squat, I only breathe at the top as I'm coming down. So I'll take a big inhale in the beginning, brace, and then keep taking like slow inhale as I'm going down. When I'm at the bottom, I just pause for a second as I'm coming up. Once I'm like a little bit past halfway, I start exhaling slowly.
Got
That way,
it.
once I reach the top, I already let out all that air and I'm just going back into breathing again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a hard one to get down, especially when you're fatigued, bro. Like when you're fatigued, that shit kind of goes out the window.
Heck yeah. When it's like the 10th rep or 11th, 12th rep, and you probably have 2 reps in reserve, you're at that RPE level, the breathing is,
Yeah.
I don't care how good someone's cardio is, that's the whole different cardio right there. It's hard, so
Bro,
hard.
your head's about to explode and you just kind of forget to
Yeah,
breathe.
dizzy, yeah. Crazy.
Got the veins just popping out, just trying to get that final rep.
One on the forehead, yeah, about to
Yeah.
pop.
Dude, I have some gnarly photos of my veins just trying to lift something.
I want to see more of those videos. I want to see the veins on the head pop out. I want those.
I got you. I'll send a picture after this. You're gonna
Yeah,
die.
there you go.
Beautiful.